The rain fell in heavy sheets across the cobblestone streets of Paris, transforming the city of light into a glistening watercolor. Olivia Mercer ducked beneath the awning of a small patisserie, clutching her portfolio case to her chest. The exhibition at Galerie Lumière had gone well to potential. Buyers had expressed interest in her landscapes, but now she was stranded without an umbrella, her hotel 15 blocks away. "Just my luck," she muttered, watching rivulets cascade from the awning's edge. A taxi splashed by, already occupied. She checked her watch. Nearly midnight. The rain showed no signs of letting up. Olivia decided to make a run for it. She'd taken 3 steps into the downpour when a firm hand caught her elbow, pulling her back beneath the shelter of the awning. "You'll ruin your paintings?" said a deep voice, with the barest hint of an accent she couldn't place. She turned, startled too. Face a tall man in a charcoal coat. His face was partially shadowed by the awning, but she could make out sharp cheekbones and eyes that seemed to reflect the dim streetlights. Dark hair fell across his forehead, rain-dampened. "How did you know I had paintings?" she asked, suddenly. Wary, he gestured to her portfolio. "The case. I was at the exhibition tonight." Before she could respond, a taxi rounded the corner, its yellow light glowing through the rain. "Take this one," he said, stepping into the street to wave it down. "Wait," Olivia began, but the taxi was already pulling up. The stranger opened the door for her, but instead of letting her pass, he suddenly moved closer. Time seemed to slow as his eyes met hers, intense and searching, as if he recognized something in her that she didn't know existed. Then, with a gentleness that contradicted his bold movement, he leaned down and pressed his lips to hers. The kiss lasted only seconds.
Ow.
But Olivia felt something crack open inside her door, to a room she hadn't known was there. His lips were warm despite the chill of the rain, and he smelled of sandalwood and something earthy, like petrichor. When he pulled away, his expression had changed to one of surprise, as if he hadn't intended the kiss any more than she had expected it. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his breath warm against her cheek. "I had to know." "Know what?" she managed to ask, her voice barely audible above the rain. Instead of answering, he guided her into the taxi. "Hotel de Crillon," he told the driver, then handed over enough euros to cover the fare before she could protest. "Wait, who are you?" Olivia called as he began to close the door. He hesitated, rain soaking his shoulders. "Someone who recognizes you," he said cryptically, and shut the door. As the taxi pulled away, Olivia twisted in her seat, watching his tall figure recede into the rainy night. Her fingers rose unconsciously to her lips, still warm from his kiss. How had he known her hotel? Why had he kissed her? And what did he mean? He recognized her. They'd never met before. She would have remembered him. Back in her hotel room, Olivia tried to focus on preparing for tomorrow's meetings with gallery owners, but her mind kept returning to the stranger's kiss. With Thomas 8 months ago, and no man had stirred anything in her since until tonight, till a kiss from a complete stranger had somehow felt like coming home. Ridiculous, she told her reflection as she prepared for bed. This isn't a fairy tale. Yet as she drifted off to sleep, the stranger's words echoed in her mind. I had to know. And what had he discovered in that brief connection? And why did she feel with unsettling certainty that her life had just changed irrevocably? Asterisk 3 days. After the mysterious kiss, Olivia stood in the grand ballroom of the Musée d'Orsay, feeling distinctly out of place among Paris's elite. Her gallery representative, Dominique Fournier, had insisted she attend tonight's charity auction connections. Are everything in the art world, Sherry? But Olivia felt like an imposter in her borrowed black dress. You look lost, Dominique said, appearing at her elbow with 2 champagne flutes. Relax. Tonight is about celebrating your success. The Lumière exhibition sold 3 of your pieces. Olivia accepted the champagne gratefully. I still can't believe it. Who buys an unknown American's paintings? Collectors who recognize emerging talent, Dominique replied with a wink. Now, there's someone you must meet. He rarely attends these functions, but he's one of the most influential private collectors in Europe. She followed Dominique through the crowd, nodding politely at introductions. She immediately forgot. Her mind had been a fog since that rainy night, thoughts returning obsessively to the stranger's kiss, like a tongue probing a sore tooth. Monsieur Valcourt, Dominique called, stopping before a small group near the windows overlooking the Seine. May I present Olivia Mercer, the artist? I mentioned. The group parted, and Olivia's champagne nearly slipped from her fingers. Standing before her was the man from the rain-soaked street. He looked different, in formal attire, his perfectly tailored tuxedo accentuating broad shoulders. His dark hair styled away from his face, revealing features even more striking than she remembered. Its expression shifted from polite interest to shock, then careful neutrality as their eyes met. "Mademoiselle Mercer," he said, his voice containing none of the intimacy from their previous encounter. "Your landscapes show remarkable sensitivity to light, particularly the series featuring the Provençal lavender fields." Olivia struggled to find her voice. "Thank you, Monsieur Valcourt." "Etienne, please," he said, extending his hand as if they were strangers meeting for the first time. When their fingers touched, she felt a current pass between them. His slight tightening of jaw suggested he felt it too. "Etienne is being modest," said an elegant older woman beside him. "He doesn't just collect art, he's responsible for revitalizing half the galleries in Montmartre through his foundation, Florence." "Exaggerates," Etienne said smoothly. "Mademoiselle Mercer, perhaps you would appreciate seeing the Degas exhibition upstairs. It's quieter and the lighting does the pieces justice." Before Dominique could object, Etienne had guided Olivia away, his hand barely touching the small of her back. They walked in silence until reaching the nearly empty exhibition room above. "You lied," Olivia said once they were alone. "Your name isn't Etienne Valcourt. I never told you my name that night," he countered. "And Etienne Valcourt is, indeed, who I am, chairman of Valcourt Industries, art collector, and apparently a man who kisses strangers in the rain." "Why did you do it?" she asked, the question that had haunted her for days. He turned away, studying a Degas dancer. "I wish I could explain. When I saw you in the gallery that night, standing before your painting of the storm over the Mediterranean, ... something about you seemed familiar, as if, ... double quotes," he trailed off. "As if what?" "As if I'd been looking for you without knowing it," he finished quietly. "Absurd, I know." "You said you recognized me," he said, his expression shuddering. "One I apologize for." The kiss was inexcusable. "Yet you knew my hotel," she pressed. A flash of something guilt crossed his face. "I asked the gallery owner. I intended to send your paintings back to your hotel as an anonymous purchase."
Why anonymous?
"Because Etienne Valcourt doesn't act on impulse," he said, a hint of bitterness in his tone. "He doesn't kiss artists in the rain, doesn't feel connections that can't be explained. He makes rational decisions." Olivia stepped closer. "And what does the man beneath the name do?" For a moment, the carefully constructed facade cracked, revealing vulnerability in his dark eyes. "He's not someone you should know." "Too late." She said softly, "And I think that's why you kissed me. Wanted to be seen not as Etienne Valcourt, but as yourself." A commotion from the doorway interrupted them. A sharp-featured woman in a red dress approached, disapproval evident in her expression. "Etienne, the auction is starting. Your presence is required." Her eyes flicked dismissively to Olivia. "Privately, Genevieve," he acknowledged with a nod. "This is Olivia Mercer, a talented artist." "Charmed," Genevieve said without warmth. "The ambassador is waiting, Etienne." He turned to Olivia, his public mask firmly back in place. "It was a pleasure discussing your work, Mademoiselle Mercer. My assistant will contact why I believe your perspective would be valuable for an upcoming foundation project." As he walked away with Genevieve, who placed a possessive hand on his arm, Olivia felt a complex mix of emotions. Confusion, certainly. Attraction, undeniably. But most troubling was the sense that beneath Etienne Valcourt's polished exterior lay secrets, dangerous ones. Later that night, a hotel bellboy delivered a package to her room. Inside was her painting of the Mediterranean storm, the one Etienne had mentioned, along with a note bearing just 3 words, "I still remember." The invitation arrived on cream-colored stationery, the Valcourt Foundation embossed in silver at the top. Your expertise is requested, it read, followed by an address in Montmartre and tomorrow's date. No mention of Etienne himself, just a formal request signed by his executive assistant. Olivia spent an embarrassing amount of time deciding what to wear before settling on a simple blue dress that matched her eyes. She told herself this was professional interest. The foundation could open doors for her career. The flutter in her stomach when she thought of seeing Etienne again was irrelevant. The address led to a converted warehouse. Its industrial exterior, giving no hint of what lay inside, a young man in black greeted her at the door. Mademoiselle Mercer, please follow me. The interior had been transformed into a sprawling art studio, with high ceilings, exposed beams, and walls of windows letting in natural light. A dozen children, ranging from 8 to perhaps 14 years old, worked at various stations, painting, sculpting, sketching. Our students, said a familiar voice behind her. Olivia turned to find Etienne watching her, dressed casually in dark jeans and a gray sweater pushed up at the sleeves, revealing strong forearms. He looked younger this way, more like the man who had kissed her in the rain than the polished executive from the gala. What is this place? She asked. The Foundation's newest project, he replied, guiding her through the space. We provide art education to children from Paris's underserved communities. Many have experienced trauma or instability. A small girl with braided hair waved enthusiastically at Etienne, who returned the gesture with surprising warmth. Imani, he explained, arrived from Senegal 6 months ago. Barely spoke when she came, but art gave her a voice. Olivia studied him. This isn't what I expected, from Valcourt Industries, or from me, he asked, a hint of challenge in his voice. Both, she admitted. Your company builds luxury hotels and casinos. This seems personal. Something flickered in his expression. It is. Come, there's someone you should meet. Led her to a small office where an elderly man with kind eyes and paint-stained hands sat reviewing portfolios. Professor Bernard, this is Olivia Mercer. The old man's face lit up. The American with the extraordinary light. Your Mediterranean series moved me deeply. Professor Bernard was my first art teacher, Etienne explained. He's been running programs like this for 40 years, until my most stubborn student decided to fund them properly, Bernard said with affection. Etienne was once like these children, using art to express what he couldn't say in words. Etienne's jaw tightened. We need Olivia's perspective on expanding the program, he said, clearly changing the subject. Perhaps you could show her the student galleries while I finish with the contractors? After Etienne excused himself, Professor Bernard showed Olivia through the facility, explaining the Foundation's work with underprivileged children. Art saved Etienne, he confided, though he'd never admit it. From what? Olivia asked. Bernard's. Expression grew somber. That's his story to tell. But no, this beneath that carefully constructed exterior is a man of profound depth, pain. Later, as the students departed, Olivia found Etienne in a small studio at the back of the building. He stood before an unfinished canvas, his back to her. You paint? She said, surprised. He didn't turn once. Not anymore. Why not? Some doors are better left closed. He finally faced her. What did you think of the program? It's incredible, she said honestly. These children have real talent. They have more than talent. They have need. He moved to a cabinet, removing a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. When expression is your only safety, you create with desperation, he poured. The wine, his sleeve pulled back, revealing a jagged scar running from wrist to elbow. He quickly tugged the fabric down, but not before she noticed. You speak from experience, she said softly. He handed her a glass. Professor Bernard talks too much, or not enough. She accepted the wine. You're not what the tabloids describe. What's that? It's the ice king of European business, she quoted. Notorious recluse Etienne Valcourt, as cold as he is wealthy. A bitter smile touched his lips. Perhaps that's exactly who I am. No, she said with certainty. The man who kissed me in the rain wasn't cold. Neither is the man who created this place for children. Something vulnerable flashed in his eyes before he looked away. You see what you want to see, Olivia. I see you, she insisted, stepping closer. Why did you bring me here today? It wasn't for my expertise. His gaze returned to hers, intense and conflicted. Because since that night, I can't get you out of my head. It's disturbing. Disturbing. She repeated, both hurt and intrigued. I don't form attachments, he said quietly. It's safer that way. Safer for whom? Before he could answer, his phone rang. He checked it, his expression instantly hardening. I need to take this. He stepped away, speaking rapid French into the phone. When he returned, his walls were firmly back in place. I apologize, but something requires my immediate attention. My driver will take you back to your hotel. Tien, she said, frustrated by his sudden retreat. What are you afraid of? He hesitated at the door. Should ask instead what you should fear, Olivia? If there are aspects of my life you don't understand, then help me understand. I can't. His expression softened momentarily. But I want to see you again. Tomorrow night I'll send the details. As he disappeared through the door, Olivia felt both anticipation and unease. Whatever secrets Etienne Valcourt harbored, they ran deep, perhaps deeper than she was prepared to go. Back at her hotel, a message waited, dinner instructions for tomorrow, and a small package containing a delicate silver bracelet with a single, charm-a-perfect miniature of her Mediterranean storm painting, rendered in enamel. The note read, to remind you that storms pass, but their beauty remains. The restaurant was tucked away on a quiet street in Lamar. Its entrance unmarked, except for a small brass plaque reading Jasmine. Inside, Olivia was led through a lush courtyard to a private dining alcove where Etienne waited. The space illuminated by dozens of candles. You look beautiful, he said, rising to greet her. The silver bracelet glinted on her wrist. This place is incredible, she replied, taking in the cascading flowers and intimate setting. I own it, he admitted, but few know that. I come here when I need ... sanctuary. Over exquisite food and wine. Conversation flowed surprisingly easily. Etienne spoke of his travels, his favorite artists, his childhood dreams before responsibility claimed him. Olivia shared stories of growing up in a small Oregon town, her struggle to convince her practical parents that art was a viable career. Her disastrous first exhibition, where nothing sold. Yet you persisted, he noted with admiration. Art isn't a choice for me, she explained. It's how I process the world. As desert arrived, Etienne's expression grew serious. Olivia, there are things about my life, my past you should know. Before he could continue, his security chief, Felipe, appeared at the entrance to their alcove. Monsieur, pardonnez-moi, he said tensely. We have a situation. Etienne's face transformed instantly, warmth replaced by cold efficiency. Excuse me, he told Olivia, following Philippe outside. Through the window, she watched their urgent conversation. Etienne's posture grew rigid, his gestures sharp. When he returned, his eyes had hardened to obsidian. I need to leave, he said. Already reaching for his jacket, Felipe will ensure you get back safely. Etienne, what's happening? He hesitated, conflict evident in his expression. It's complicated. Try me, she challenged. After a moment's deliberation, he sat back down. Valcourt Industries wasn't always legitimate, he said quietly. My father built his empire through connections with people you don't want to know. When he died 10 years ago, I inherited not just his business but his enemies. What kind of enemies? She asked, her mouth suddenly dry. Powerful ones. His hand closed over hers. I've spent a decade dismantling his criminal enterprises, redirecting the company toward legitimate business. Not everyone appreciated this. Transformation. And tonight, a warning, he said grimly. Someone left photographs at my apartment. Surveillance images of you at your hotel, at the gallery with me. Olivia felt cold despite the warm evening. Why would anyone care about me? Because in 10 years you're the first person I've... He stopped, recalibrating. They're targeting what they perceive as a vulnerability. Which is what? Me. My interest in you, he clarified. I've maintained a certain reputation, distant, untouchable for good reason. Emotional attachments can be exploited. Olivia withdrew her hand. Is that what I am? An emotional attachment? That complicates your business? No, he said forcefully. You're the first real thing I've felt in years. That night in the rain, he shook his head. I can't explain what happened, but it woke something in me I thought was dead. Who's threatening you, Etienne? He looked away. His name is Victor Legrand. Once my father's business partner, now one of France's most dangerous criminals. He's recently resurfaced after years abroad, and he's targeting me to get to you. Appears so. Which is why Etienne's voice grew strained. Which is why, after tonight, we can't see each other again. It's ridiculous. She protested. It's necessary, he insisted. I won't risk your safety. Shouldn't that be my decision? His expression darkened. People are capable of, and make me understand, she demanded. Etienne unbuttoned his cuff and rolled up his sleeve, fully revealing the scar she'd glimpsed before, along with another that crossed his collarbone. Victor held me captive for 3 days when I was 17, he said flatly. To persuade my father to reconsider a business decision? These were his arguments. Horror washed over Olivia. Etienne survived, he said, rebuttoning his sleeve. Many others didn't. Victor doesn't make empty threats. Philippe reappeared, his expression urgent. Monsieur nous devons partir maintenant, Etienne stood. I've arranged for you to return to America tomorrow. First-class ticket, gallery connections in New York. Everything you need to advance your career safely away from here? You're sending me away? She asked incredulously. I'm protecting you, he corrected, his voice tight with emotion. Something I failed to do by allowing myself to pursue this connection. That kiss in the rain was a mistake, he interrupted. One that put you in danger. It didn't feel like a mistake, she said quietly. For a moment, his composure faltered. He reached out, cupping her face in his hand. In another life, perhaps. Then he was gone, leaving Olivia alone in the candlelight with a future rearranged, by powers beyond her control. Back in her hotel room, she found a package, the ticket to New York, gallery introductions, even an apartment lease. Everything neatly arranged to remove her from Etienne's complicated life. As she contemplated the documents, her room phone rang. Mademoiselle Mercer, an unfamiliar male voice, heavily accented. I believe we have mutual interests regarding Etienne. Valcourt, who is this? She demanded. Someone who knows Etienne better than he knows himself, the voice replied. He thinks he's protecting you by sending you away. He's wrong, Victor, she whispered, a soft laugh. Clever girl. No wonder he broke his own rules for you. What do you want? To offer you a choice, Victor said smoothly. Leave tomorrow as Etienne arranged and never see him again. Or meet me tonight and learn the truth about the man you're falling in love with. What truth? Etienne isn't running from me because he fears what I'll do to him, Victor said. He fears what I'll tell you about who he really is. Rain pattered against the windows of the small cafe near Place des Vosges, echoing the night Olivia first met Etienne. She sat alone at a corner table, a cup of untouched coffee before her, watching the door. Victor's invitation had come with coordinates, not an address. This nondescript cafe, far from the glamorous Paris that Etienne inhabited. A trap, perhaps. Yet she had come, driven by something stronger than caution. The bell above the door chimed. A silver-haired man entered. Impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, though in his 60s, he moved with predatory grace, his eyes immediately finding Olivia. Behind him followed 2 men with the unmistakable bulge of concealed weapons beneath their jackets. Mademoiselle Mercer, he said, sliding into the seat across from her. Brave of you to come. Foolish, but brave. Mr. Legrand, she acknowledged. Keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart, he studied her with clinical interest. I see why Etienne is fascinated, given it. Authenticity that must be refreshing after his world of facades. You said you had truths to share, she said, cutting through his preamble. I'm listening. Victor smiled thinly. Direct, another quality he would appreciate. He signaled the waiter for espresso before continuing. Tell me, what has Etienne shared about his past, enough to know you tortured him when he was 17? Is that how he describes it? Victor's laugh held no humor. Did he mention what came before? What came after? When Olivia remained silent, he leaned forward. Etienne wasn't just my partner's son. He was my protege. Brilliant, ruthless, eh? Natural. By 25, he had orchestrated the takeover of 3 rival organizations. His father was brutal, but Etienne was surgical. "You're lying," Olivia said. Though uncertainty crept into her voice, Victor removed a phone from his pocket, sliding it across the table. "These are not the actions of an innocent." The screen showed news articles, suspicious deaths, arrests of former Valcourt associates, company acquisitions following mysterious accidents. Etienne's name appeared in each, always peripherally. Rebuilding the Valcourt empire wasn't about legitimacy, Victor continued. It was about control. Etienne eliminated his father's old guard, myself included, not because we were criminals, but because we knew what he was capable of. Olivia pushed the phone away. "If that's true, why would he push me away to protect me?" "Because you've made him vulnerable," Victor replied. "Etienne doesn't form attachments because attachment requires truth, and his entire existence is built on lies." "Then why tell me this? What do you want?" Victor's expression hardened. "Revenge, of course. Etienne took everything from me. Now I'll take what matters to him." Olivia felt cold dread wash over her. "I'm not going with you." "You misunderstand," Victor said, rising. "I don't need to take you. I only needed you to be here now, so Etienne would come for you." Too late, Olivia realized the trap wasn't for her at all. "He's already on his way," Victor continued, checking his watch. "My sources at his security team informed him of our meeting 10 minutes ago. Always the knight in shining armor, our Etienne." "This is between you and him," she said. Desperately. "Let me leave." "Oh no, mademoiselle. You're the catalyst for tonight's resolution." He nodded to his men. "We'll continue this conversation elsewhere." Before they could move, the cafe door burst open. Etienne stood there, rain-drenched, with Felipe and 2 others behind him. "Let her go, Victor," he commanded, his voice deadly calm. Victor smiled. "Etienne, punctual as always." "Olivia," Etienne said, his eyes never leaving Victor. "Walk out now." "She stays," Victor countered. "We have unfinished business, you and I." "Our business was concluded years ago," Etienne replied coldly, "when you murdered my mother." The accusation hung in the air. Victor's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Collateral damage. Unfortunate, but necessary. "Nothing about her death was necessary," Etienne said, his control slipping. "Just as nothing about this confrontation is necessary. Your vendetta is with me, not her." "On the contrary," Victor replied. "She's made you careless. It's the great Etienne Valcourt, undone by a kiss in the rain." He shook his head mockingly. "Your father would be disappointed." "My father was a monster," Etienne said flatly. "As are you." "And what does that make you?" Victor challenged. "The son who built his redemption on blood money. The reformed criminal, playing philanthropist while his hands remained stained." Olivia watched Etienne's face, searching for truth amidst the accusations. "I never claimed innocence," Etienne said quietly. "Only change," Victor scoffed. "Change. You think funding art programs for orphans erases what you've done? What you are?" "No," Etienne admitted. "Nothing erases the past. But it doesn't dictate the future either." He took a step forward. "This ends tonight, Victor, one way or another." The tension in the room crystallized. Victor's men reached for their weapons. "Stop." Olivia stood, placing herself between the 2 men. "This is insanity." "Move aside, Olivia," Etienne urged. "No," she said firmly. "Whatever happened between you 2, whatever you've both done, it doesn't justify more violence." "You don't understand what's at stake," Victor said dismissively. "I understand perfectly," she countered. "Revenge. Power. The same poison that's defined both your lives." She turned to Etienne. "Is this who you want to be? Still fighting the same battles, trapped in the same cycle?" Something shifted in Etienne's expression, recognition, perhaps, or awakening. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. "You're right," he said softly. Then to Victor, "This ends, but not with more. Bloodshed. You want vengeance? Take it up with the authorities." He pulled out a flash drive. "This contains evidence of my father's operations, my own involvement and yours, enough to imprison us both. Victor's face contorted with rage. You would destroy yourself. If necessary, Etienne replied. I'm tired of living in shadows. For a moment, Victor seemed genuinely stunned. Then he laughed a sharp, disbelieving sound. You've gone soft. No, Etienne countered. For the first time, I found strength to face the truth, the standoff. Stretched taut as a wire. Then unexpectedly, Victor lowered his hand. You always were full of surprises, Etienne. He gestured to his men, who stepped back. Another time, perhaps. As Victor moved toward the door, he paused beside Olivia. He's still dangerous, mademoiselle. Men like us don't change our nature. Perhaps not, she replied. But we can choose our actions. After Victor departed, the cafe fell silent except for the rain. Etienne approached Olivia cautiously. You should have left when I told you to, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I'm not good at following orders, she replied. Victor wasn't lying about everything, Etienne admitted. There are parts of my past I know, she interrupted, or at least I can imagine. The question is whether your past defines your future. And if it does, he asked, vulnerability naked in his eyes. Then you choose a different future, she said simply. Starting now. Etienne reached for her hands, holding them between his own. When I kissed you that night, something changed in me, as if I'd been sleepwalking for years and suddenly woke up. One kiss, she said with a small smile. One kiss, he agreed. With consequences neither of us could have imagined. What happens now? She asked. I don't know, he admitted. Dismantling the remaining shadows of my father's empire. Making amends where possible. It won't be easy or quick. And us. Etienne brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch gentle, despite the strength in his hands. That depends on you. Knowing what you know, seeing what you've seen. You still want a future that includes me? Olivia considered everything, the danger, the complicated past, the uncertain road ahead. Then she thought of the man who created safe spaces for traumatized children, who remembered his first art teacher, who recognized something in her that night in the rain that she was only beginning to see in herself. I think she said carefully that futures aren't found. They're built, one choice at a time. She leaned forward and kissed him not with the surprise of their first encounter, but with deliberate choice. When they parted, the rain had stopped, and first light was breaking over Paris. Wherever this leads, Etienne said, his forehead resting against hers, know that you've already changed my life. Olivia smiled. With just one kiss? With everything that followed, he corrected. With every moment you refused to let me hide from myself or from you? As they stepped outside into the dawn, Paris seemed transformed not by magic or fate, but by the simple, profound courage of choosing love over fear, truth over shadows, and the uncertain future over the inescapable past. One kiss had changed everything, but it was the thousand choices that came after that would truly transform their lives.